The children of Alphen used to swap stories about what might happen if the Prince of Rostenburg ever returned. They were fanciful, romantic stories. Stories that transformed our village into a glittering city and elevated the hulking tombstone of a castle on the mountain into an imperial palace. It was silly, I told them. There was still a prince somewhere, even if we'd never seen him. We'd never seen the Emperor either, and he wasn't missing. He was in Vienna. I was not a popular child. The adults told other stories, of taxes and armies and whispers of unrest in faraway lands. But I was too young to understand. So on the day the prince returned, I was oblivious to the horrors our future held. I was 10 years old and hadn't yet learned what it is to grieve. By the time I turned 12, I was numb to it. The prince returned on the night of Erntedankfest, when the hills were ablaze with the flaming rust of Rostenburg's namesake. It was my favourite time of year. There was so much to celebrate. Another successful harvest, another winter well fed. And all thanks to Father, who had overseen everything without needing to scrub dirt from his fingernails. Most of the town had crowded into the square, but Jan and I had crept away with a bundle of krapfen he'd stolen from his father's stall. We hid in the darkened alcove of the closed bakery on the main street, giggling to ourselves and feeling ever so grown up. I was wiping my hands on my apron when Jan spotted something over my shoulder. His smile dropped. "Who is that?" A stranger was walking toward the market square. That in itself wasn't abnormal. It was festival night after all. But we could tell he didn't belong in the valley. His dark hair was impeccably styled, and his clothes were so fine they put my father's best to shame. I had no concept of how old he was beyond the nebulous threshold of adulthood, but he seemed to fit the window my aunt would call marriageable age. For a brief moment, I wished I was that age too. If he had been standing in full sunlight, I might have seen the crest on his ring or recognized the exact shade of crimson of his coat. But of course he would never stand in full sunlight, and as it was, I didn't need the ring to identify him. A man that beautiful could only be a prince. "That's the Prince of Rostenburg." It was the flawed logic of a child, correct only by coincidence. But Jan didn't question it. I was the only one of our peers forced into lessons with a tutor, and he never questioned even my most outlandish tales. "Where's his horse?" Jan asked. "He probably left it by the bridge." "Unless he came on the mountain path." It was meant as a joke, but as Jan said it, we both looked back to the route the stranger had taken. Unless he was terribly lost, he hadn't come from the bridge.